Conor McGregor will be back in the octagon early next year, but as of yet, we have no idea who he might be up against when he returns. There are, of course, plenty of takers, as most fighters realize the payday they would inevitably be getting for going up against the Notorious one. Today, we're discussing the top 8 picks for Conor McGregor's comeback fight, whenever that may be. First up, it's the current king. Charles Oliveira is currently the best lightweight on the planet, even though he doesn't have the strap due to being stripped after missing weight right now. And recently, the Brazilian has been calling out McGregor, referencing the fact that he wants to make as much money as he can whilst he is at the top of his game. And why not? However, should he beat Makhachev when the pair dance this October, that would mean McGregor would be in for an immediate title shot upon his return to the octagon. And however much Dana White spins it, we don't think there's much chance he would be able to get away with something this absurd. McGregor has won 1 fight in 6 years, which means there's almost certainly no chance of him returning to fight for the title. Of course, stranger things have happened, and Dana would love his cash cow to walk straight into a lightweight title fight. But there would be an absolute uproar if the boss booked this one. We're not sure Dana would be able to pull this one off. What do you think? Next up, it's Tony Ferguson. Stay with us. There's a serious argument which suggests this one could be one of the more viable options, as both men are desperate for a win. Once one of the scariest men in the division, Ferguson has fallen off recently and last time out suffered one of the most terrifying knockouts of all time at the hands of Michael Chandler. The fact that McGregor is also coming off a 2-fight losing streak means that this one could be perfect. Someone would inevitably get back on track, and with Ferguson still a ranked fighter, he is of course still dangerous. Both men are next to each other in the rankings, so this one possibly makes the most sense. It will also be pretty interesting to see stylistically, as it would pit striker against grappler. Who would you all back if this one got booked? Give us your thoughts below. Dustin is coming through next. There's a feeling in MMA circles that the trilogy fight with Dustin didn't end the way it should have. Of course, Poirier will always have a check in the win column, which puts him 2-1 up in his series against McGregor. But he cannot be happy with the circumstances of the win, as the Irishman pretty much broke his own leg after kicking Poirier. Many people believe there is unfinished business, and this would of course do massive pay-per-view numbers. I mean, it's Conor, right? So he could fight any guy off the street and people would still pay for it. However, Dustin is currently number 2 in the division and might see the Conor fight as a step backwards, almost certainly a risk that might not be worth taking. If he loses, then he plummets down the rankings. However, if he wins, he could get rid of McGregor once and for all. What do you think the likelihood of this one is? We're talking about Michael Chandler next. Stick around. Former Bellator champion Chandler is an exciting fighter, there's no doubt about it. One of the most fearsome strikers in the division, this one would almost certainly stay stood up throughout until one man knocks the other out. Chandler is currently number 5 and has little aspirations, having been beaten by Du Bronx in their fight for the vacant title. But having Conor McGregor's name on his resume might be too good an opportunity for Iron Mike to turn down. He is also getting on in years, so might see the McGregor fight as an opportunity to earn some real money before he hangs up the gloves. The pair hold 30 knockouts between them, so this one might be one of the easier fights for White to sell. It shouldn't be too hard to sell to McGregor either, as Chandler is still a top 5 fighter, and if the Notorious could get the win, then it might shut a few of his doubters up. Who do you see taking the W if this fight actually goes down? Nate Diaz is coming through now. Of course, Diaz is set to take on Khamzat Chimaev in his final UFC fight next month, but Dana has recently suggested the winner could fight for the title. If Diaz does manage to defy the odds and get the win, he would more than likely be offered a massive contract by the organization, which could see him stick around for a few more fights at least. McGregor and Diaz have, of course, fought twice before, each winning 1 fight apiece, so this one simply markets itself. If Diaz is able to beat Khamzat, could a fight with McGregor be marketed as a title eliminator? We've seen Dana go back on his word before, so there would be no surprise if he asked Diaz to fight McGregor to see who gets the next stab at either Usman or Edwards. There are a lot of moving parts for this one to actually come off, but never say never, right? What do you guys think about this scenario? Let us know below. Next up, it's RDA. Before McGregor's welterweight debut against Nate Diaz back in 2016, he was actually supposed to fight Rafael dos Anjos in a lightweight fight. And coming off a loss after his last outing against Rafael Fiziev, he might see the McGregor fight as his final swan song. Similar to Chandler, he's getting on in the years, so might like the idea of one final massive payday before he sails off into the sunset. And of course, he's still a dangerous fighter. He battered Renato Moicano over 5 rounds earlier this year after retiring Paul Felder in the fight before, so this one wouldn't be a cakewalk for McGregor, but then neither would any ranked fighter. These two should have fought years ago and will almost certainly regret not throwing down in years to come when they reflect on their respective careers. And as two former lightweight champions, this one again sells itself. Who do you guys have if McGregor and RDA finally dance? Let us know below. Justin Gaethje is coming through now. Justin brings the heat every time. There's absolutely no doubt about it. However, he hasn't been heard from since tasting disappointment in his title fight with Charles Oliveira in May. But he is still a major presence in the lightweight division, currently occupying number 3, after tasting back-to-back defeats against Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier back in 2017 and 2018. Justin went away and worked on not walking into punches so much, and it worked. He won his next 4 straight before coming up against another former McGregor foe, Khabib. Of course, the Russian dominated him, and he lost his next title fight against Charles too. It's safe to say that Gaethje needs a win after losing 2 of his last 3, and whilst he would obviously appreciate the payday that came along with the fight in Conor McGregor, he would also fancy himself to put the pace on McGregor and get the win. Many other people in the world of MMA would too. As with Chandler, this would almost certainly stay standing and has the potential to be an iconic slugfest. Again, Justin is top 5, so McGregor would almost certainly take this fight too. What do you guys think? Give us your thoughts below. And finally, it's the baddie. Paddy Pimblett is on a similar trajectory to that of Conor McGregor in the early parts of the 2010s. The popular Liverpool fighter is on the way up the lightweight division, having won his first 3 UFC fights at a canter. There's no doubt about it. However, McGregor is at a completely different point in his career and is obviously on the way down, but this is almost certainly the fight that fans would most like to see. Paddy is dangerous on the ground, and McGregor of course still has the knockout power, so much like Tony Ferguson, this one would be an interesting fight stylistically. Whether or not Conor could be coaxed into giving Paddy a shot at him at such an early point in the Scousers' career is unknown, but many voices across the sport, such as the popular Ariel Helwani, have suggested he probably wouldn't, as it represents too much of a risk. I mean, should Conor lose to an unranked prospect that then would almost certainly signal the end of his career in the big leagues? But should he manage to derail the Pimblett hype train, then it could just be worth it for him. This one would obviously do a ton of pay-per-views and could even reignite McGregor's career. Which fight do you think makes the most sense for Conor? Let us know below. As usual, thanks for dropping by today, and remember to stop by again the next time for some more fun and games. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video with any UFC heads you might have knocking about on those socials. Bye guys!